Investment Challenge Day 25. Today's topic is going to be casino, where I will be talking about the overall casino as an industry. I'm going to compare two companies that I like, Betsson and Unibet, or Kindred as they're called now, and also compare these two traditional gaming companies to Evolution Gaming. So if we start looking at the casino business and the industry itself, it's been kind of a tough year last year. And Betsson down 43%, Unibet down 22%, NetEnt down 17%. So what happened? These were performing so well for such a long time. Of course, it had to end sometime, but why did it end now? There's a big issue with the licenses. And there's been a couple of ways around this before, because, for example, in Sweden, if you look at the Swedish market, it's never been kind of legal to promote gaming except for Svenska Spel. But if you watch TV, you see that half of the commercials are for casinos. And there's been different ways to get around this, because if you broadcast from England, for example, it's going to be legal because you're technically not in Sweden. But the licenses will be tougher and tougher because, for example, if you look at the United States, they closed down pretty much everything. You cannot gamble online, you cannot play poker online. That's why the poker boom died, more or less. And this kind of things are happening in other countries as well. So most of the time you have to apply for one license for one country. And this is going to be time demanding and expensive, and you might not get that money back. So you have to be really good at picking what market to enter. And this is causing trouble for the gaming companies. We're still kind of suffering from the boom in the mid-2000s. And by then, everything was performing so well, and poker was running so hot. So the major networks offered more or less white label solutions where you could pay an amount of money to get your own casino to promote it. And this caused a big like kind of an invasion in the gaming industry, with gaming companies and casinos all over the place and fighting over the same players. So what happened is that the big guys started buying the small guys to kind of consolidate the market, and that meant overpaying for these acquisitions. I remember some crazy stories about an operator buying Maria Bingo for 700 million Swedish kronor. It was worth like 50 million at the most. And they're kind of suffering now because it was not worth it for them to pay this much for the acquisitions. Affiliates, I've been close on this topic before, and the affiliates for a period of time more or less run the entire industry. They had so much power from the big mailing list they acquired that they could sell these players really expensive. They said, we want this and this amount for every player that we send to you is going to be a paying customer. And the casinos had no choice but to agree to these terms. And the competition got too tough. This is kind of a problem still, because the player acquisition cost per customer is kind of expensive still. And the poker boom is over, and even if poker is just a very small part of most of these gaming companies, it still kind of spills over, because if you attract poker players in the poker boom, they will play poker and pay the rake, and they will also, in some extent, move over to other games to spend time or gamble up poker winnings, and that is obviously not good for them. We're not playing poker anymore. And this combined, I think, is going to be the big issue for the casino games, along with the all too sudden rise of the stock price. And we'll come back to the law and the tax issues later on. Starting with Betsson, they are a sportbook, poker, casino, and also very much mobile based. Valuation at 12.6 billion. This gives you a P of 16, and they have almost 10 million customers. So if you look at the price history here, we see it was, I think it's 155 or even slightly higher than that, not too long ago actually, and then it just dropped like crazy, and less than half of the stock price for a while there. So why did this happen? More or less, they had a really tough second quarter, and that didn't help them. And also the tax, and the Betsson themselves say that the countries they're in, they're going to be affected by the tax raises. So people got somewhat scared of this and thought, okay, this is the margin is going to go away now. And this operator Realm, an operator in the Asia and Eastern Europe, also delivering less. So this combined with the risk of the future tax increase made the stock just plummet. But I see a pretty strong case here. The turnover is up 10%, pretty much evenly spaced in the sportsbook and the mobile. Number of players up 10% as well, and they kind of have a big development in the mobile casino, mobile games, and that's up over 55%. And if you, as I believe that the future of casino is going to be in mobile, I think Betsson realizes this as well. And if you read the report, it's a lot of focus on the mobile making this grow, and I think that's the right focus for them to have. The only risk I see here is the tax. And more or less there's a consensus how much we think that the tax will be. And if that happens, probably we're going to have a rally up. The only risk is if this number is higher, we're going to continue down. But I think that the consensus expected level of tax is by far priced in. I think even if we hit exactly that number, the stock will go up because it dropped so much. And getting such a good company for a PE of 16, I think that's very, very worth the money. If we look at Unibet, I'm still going to call it Unibet because for me it's always Unibet. Kind of the same portfolio, what they offer. They speak a lot of their bingo as well. Valuation at 19 million, and this gives us a P of 23, so it's a little more expensive, but they do have a bigger customer database as well, almost 16 million. It's very similar. As you can see on the price history here, it didn't have quite as big a drop, but still it's kind of from over 100 down to 80. This is kind of a big move for a gaming company, but also you can see the increase in price here. It's probably too steep. It shouldn't increase that much. But now, here I thought it was really expensive, and now I think it's kind of cheap because this company, if you look at the numbers, is looking really, really good. They're growing, they're making a lot of money, and the customer base is growing. So it's very similar to the case of Betsson. I think if I had to choose one, I would pick Betsson. Lower PE and lower valuation. I think they're doing something right with the they're turning over as much money as Unibet, more or less, and making a little more money than Unibet with a smaller player database. I think that could explain why it's a little bit easier for them if they spend less money acquiring customers, for example, and make more money from each customer. That's probably a good thing because, as we discussed in the first slide, the acquisition cost per customer is very expensive, so you need to make the most out of the customers you do have. So my choice is Betsson. And then we have Evolution Gaming. If we look at this price history, it's not affected at all. It's straight up and just consolidating straight forward. So why didn't this drop? Because Evolution Gaming is B2B. They do not try to acquire customers. They acquire companies like Unibet, like Betsson, and they deliver their product to them. And it's live casino, you have a live dealer. So there's no license issues. You don't compete to try to buy players. You don't need to market yourself on TV. It's just a way more solid foundation of this company. Uh, Valued at 9.1 billion. This gives us a PE of 32, so it's way higher valuation of this company. But you can't really compare these because it's not the same thing. And actually, it's kind of hard to compare Evolution Gaming to anything else because it's so different from the other guys. So that it's kind of hard to say if PE 32 is high or not, because we got nothing to compare to. Then maybe this is a PE it should have, but way more expensive as it looks right now. And this is what it looks like more or less. You have live dealers, and the reason for this is it's supposed to feel more alive. It's supposed to feel like there's people involved in this. You're not on your own in front of your computer. There's nothing else going on. This is actually the real thing. And also some people experience that this feels less rigged, and by rigged I mean the casino would be cheating, so to speak, that every time you bet big it feels like you're losing even if you have the odds with you. And of course this is not the case. The casinos, they're not rigged. It just feels this way when you lose because you remember the losses more. But they feel if there's a person involved in this, it's slightly less chance that it's rigged. And the case here is that they are not directly affected by the regulation and the laws. But the risk here is, it in second hand, it is affected by the laws. Because if we look at the market as a whole, if it gets tougher to manage, we will have fewer casinos surviving this, and that means Evolution Gaming will sell their product to fewer casinos. And if they sell to Unibet and Betsson, of course, this is going to continue, but the small guys will drop out, and they make money from each license of their product. So even if Betsson is a big player, they still need the small players. So they need everybody to survive and to offer their games. And this is why they're second hand. And we didn't see that in the graph here. We didn't see the drop as we saw in the casino. So I think this is kind of a high valuation as it is now, because I feel this should be more connected to the gaming companies. So Evolution Gaming, I'm not buying at this moment. I think it's a little too expensive, and I do expect it to drop as the other casino companies. Unibet's really good, stable companies. I would expect them to go back to 100. And Betsson, this drop is according to me, is too much. I think it'll trace its way back. I would be hoping for 125, something like that. And this could be a candidate for the challenge portfolio. We'll just see what happens. And that's it for today. So thank you.